Welcome again to the Dialed and Driven Hockey Mentality Podcast. I'm Chris Palmer with Parental Training. I do mental performance for hockey players throughout North America and Europe. This is Jeff Lerg, former professional hockey player. He created Goalie Mentors. He's the driving force behind this podcast, and he's a guy who not only won a national championship with Michigan State, but he's a 5'5" goalie who found a way to make things happen. And what we're going to talk about is this idea that there's a unique relationship between a parent, your kid, and the coach. Sometimes it's toxic, sometimes it's good, all times it's movable, and it's how to navigate that to help your kid while not harming your kid. All of it's important.
I'd love to chat on this. I have had a few different hats within the youth athletic game and landscape. Started my goalie coaching business, what at the time was kind of a hobby, turned into a business. I was 21 years old. I was still in college at the time, finishing my sophomore year, started training goalies. That's not quite 20 years ago, but close to it. So I've been involved from that perspective and fielding many calls, conversations, messages with goalie parents, speaking of their experience with their coach and playing and not playing, etc. Separately from there, once my hockey career was done, I was hired on to be a goalie director at a Tier 1 hockey program. So then I got to wear a little bit more of a leadership hat and was involved with some different life experience there. And then that transpired into being the hockey club director for a handful of years. And that brought on a whole nother ball game of experiences that were all three of these people, the coach, the player, and the parent, all had a playing part in kind of how the relationship went. Many times I was brought in as a hockey club director to kind of put out the fires. And many times I couldn't control them, but I was out there as the fireman putting out the fires. So I'd love to talk about how each of these parties can have a successful relationship with all this.
Well, it's really hard, right? Because you're a parent and you've got a kid and you love that kid. I mean, I don't think there's a bigger bond, and you want everything to work out, and you can't help but be a little protective. We're talking about youth hockey, and sometimes that protectiveness doesn't go away. I've got a kid in college 1,200 miles away, and I'm still somewhat protective. I've got to let go, but it's hard. So you go into this relationship and you want it to work out. So you want to influence things, right? You want to talk to the coach and try to get something done. But sometimes the coach can't. Sometimes he won't. Depends. But there's a logistics thing that's a real thing. You've got these different dynamics in play, and we could talk about those things, but isn't it hard? I mean, it is.
Well, it's crazy because many parents can be the most level-headed, cool, calm, collective person, but then when it involves their son or daughter, they make decisions that are out of their norm, right? They just make decisions sometimes purely on emotion. Of course, there's the protective instinct that we all have as parents. So that was one of the quickest things I learned in the roles that I had. It was parents don't make level-headed decisions all the time. Not a blanket statement, but many parents that get themselves in kind of a quarrel with the coach regarding their daughter or their son playing. It's not due to the fact that they don't think the coach is right, wrong, and different. It's that the emotion and the protectiveness of protecting their kid comes into play, and it outweighs their level-headed thinking.
Yeah, I mean, my wife will say the mama bear in her will come out sometimes. And honestly, I have the same papa bear thing. Remember when the kids were little, something dangerous happening, man, you want to stop it. And it kind of never goes away, which is good, but it's also bad because as your kids grow up and they go through this world, seeing things rationally helps so much. And it's so hard because the emotions are tied. So let's talk about this for a second. Let's just take a coach who's a great person, means well, wants to be developmental, cares so much. How much time do they have? Seriously. And very few of these positions are making enough money to be full-time. So a lot of coaches, they're doing something else. So let's just say they really want to talk to everybody. You got 20 people on a team. If you talk to each one of those kids on a team for an hour, just 1 hour, that's 20 hours. And if you talk to every parent on that team, there's 20 hours. Where are they going to find 40 hours to do that? I mean, I'm talking the best case scenario, the most developmental programs where the coach is all in and wants the best for everybody. No selfishness, no bad stuff. Logistically, it's really, really hard. So that's one thing, that's reality that's in the way. And when it's your kid, you feel like it's the most important thing in the world, and it's hard to see that side. So that's step one. The other part is, beyond that, the coach has to make these decisions. Do you think it's easy to decide who's the best in hockey? Yeah, you got a guy who scores a bunch of points. That's easy. You get a goalie who stops more goals. Maybe that's easy. But everybody else, the puck's not on your stick very much in the game. So there's all this stuff you're doing at lightning speed with violence and people banging around. And the coach is the air traffic controller on that bench watching all this stuff. Even in a practice, he's got 20 kids zipping around and he's trying to make assessments, not of clear objective things, but in this kind of subjective world. Not that easy to always make the right calls. So it's tough. But there's another part too. In the end, programs need to win games. And even if it's at the beginning parts of youth hockey, if you're not winning games, you're not going to attract people to the program. It's human nature. So that becomes a thing. So even just that, and there's a bunch more we can talk about, even with the best intentioned coaches, you can feel like, gosh, I can't talk to this guy. He's not returning my calls. The reality is it's incredibly hard, even in the best of situations.
Yeah, and you laid it out perfectly. Obviously, you've been a youth hockey parent for many years, so you've had a whole boatload of experiences from your perspective. And really, that you laid it out, and that the time commitment expected of the coach for their son or daughter playing up is really much different than what their resources, with what resources they have available. Time commitment with their money, their energy, everything that goes along with the head coach position or a coaching staff position. I mean, it should be at the youth hockey level. Sometimes the expectations are that this is your full-time job. And my son didn't play in the power play last weekend, and I want to hear an explanation as to why he didn't play. We're down by a goal with a minute left, and I want to know why he didn't put him out there. Yeah. Those are the real conversations that I've had to get dragged into. And it's, the coaches, like you mentioned, they're trying to do their best. They're managing the whole team. 18 to 20 players. They often don't have all the time available to sit down and explain every decision, or they don't have the time available to explain every decision. And so that's where some of this confrontation comes in at times. And then the other avenue you mentioned was winning is an expectation. There's quality programs are known to be quality because they do a certain level of winning while they still develop players at all levels to get to the next level or improve their game. I mean, it starts as young as 7, 8 years old. Families, players are looking to play for programs where they think will set them up to develop the best for their future years. You get to the teenage years, and then it's all about being a top 10 team in the country. And many times that's what drives families or players' decisions as to where they want to play. It's how good was that team last year? How good has that coach been? And then, of course, we all know it's never a perfect season. There's always ups and downs and avenues of maybe the coach mentioned something to you when they were trying to talk about their program, and this isn't happening. So now we're fielding calls and meetings with, well, you promised me 2 video sessions a week, and I haven't talked to you all year, right? And at the end of the day, with the reason I wanted to bring this topic up is the control is really in the athlete and the player's hands. The more often you show up and you're focused at practice and you're executing at a high level and you're a great teammate, the less that this little triangle, the relationship between the three, will come into play. The perfect scenario is parents drop you off at the rink, kid goes and plays, does well, and everyone just kind of knows, this is a good spot for one another.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the holy grail, right? That's the ultimate. But what happens is when you're a parent, and you know this from having your kids at the park, you take your kids to the park and they're little and some kid messes with your kid, man, the hair goes up in the back of your neck and all of a sudden you're just into, got to fix this kind of mode. Well, it's hard because you drop your kid off and your kid has his brain still developing till he's 25. No disrespect to that. We all have our brains developing till 25. We assess risk and danger different ways. You might have a kid who's completely disciplined at home, but not so disciplined. Maybe he doesn't speak up and you're worried he's not going to speak up. So it's hard as a parent because you want to come in and you want to help in these things, but there's got to be some sort of balance between those as you get to that ultimate thing. It would be great to send your 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 14-year-old in and hope that it all works out. But as parents, we all know it doesn't always work out. It's hard to communicate. And we know sometimes there's yucky crap that happens. There is human nature. Hockey's so valuable that sometimes some of the worst things come out in people. So you might have a coach that lets a buddy in or lets some deal happen. And unfortunately, that does happen. And there are going to be unfairnesses. But in the end, finding a way to communicate in a way that fits the dynamic of that team that year is so important. Now, if you see terrible, terrible abuses, that's one thing. But most cases, you got a coach who's trying to make stuff go. You've got a kid who's trying to get better. And I think it's almost impossible to communicate well in this sport because it just happens too fast and nobody can really define exactly what your kid needs to get where he wants to go. You can get details, but it's really hard. Ask anybody who tries to coach shooters. You can coach somebody to be a better shooter all day and you can make them better. But sometimes there's just things about somebody that just makes them see the world differently. And some guys can just score goals. It's just the truth.
And I wanted to bring this topic up in this time of year. It's getting to the late September. Many seasons have been going 6 weeks, 7 weeks, maybe, depending on how early the teams have started hockey-wise with their team training. And at this point of the year, everyone has made an impression on one another. Coach has had an impression on how the player is and how their parents are. Are they overbearing or do they kind of just stay clear, right? The coach or the parents have now made a evaluation on the coach. Is this what we signed up for? Is the team as good as coach told us it would be? Does he communicate well individually to me? Does he send out mass communication? Is our schedule what was promised? So there's all these little opinions being formed on one another. And usually there become issues when the team starts to lose. Right? Many times it's if the team's doing well, people will sweep things under the rug. Oh, we're a good team. He must be making smart choices and smart decisions. But when all of a sudden there's a 3 or 4 game losing streak, I can tell you how many times I fielded calls from parents talking about firing the 14U coach because we aren't a top 20 team like he said he would be. And their son or daughter might be a first line power play best player getting all the ice time in the world, but this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Right. And those are the situations where, from the perspective of where I've been as a goalie coach, individual goalie coach, I've been in situations where it's like, ask the questions. Well, is this a great place for your individual development? Are you getting that opportunity to develop and be seen? You've always mentioned that, development and visibility. So if you're getting those two things in this playing situation, then the other details of how the season's going, wins and losses, sometimes can be a secondary factor. Well, unfortunately, many times they become the first primary factor. And what I've seen is players would rather be on a top 10 team and not play a lot as opposed to the other way around, be the absolute best player somewhere where they can be seen by everyone. And oftentimes, as you know, that's sometimes the best way to be seen is you're playing against these other players regardless of your schedule. So it's your chance to be seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of the great things, and this happens in a lot of metros, whether it's Chicago and their teams. If you're the worst team in Chicago, you're still going to play the other Chicago teams, and there's going to be scouts there watching that, and it's a great metro. If you're in Boston and you're one of the worst teams and you're playing on that team, yeah, you're going to have your butt kicked a lot, but you're going to be seen. Same thing in Detroit. So in Detroit, for an example, if you look at the bottom couple of teams, people may not be thrilled to be playing for those, but they still play the top teams. And there's so many eyes on you all the time. You get the playing time, you get the development. And in the end, it's so hard to really keep your focus on the things that are important. Now, I'm going to talk about what you should do in a bad situation the next time as we're going through this. But for right now, keeping your eyes on the things that are most important is the way for your kid to get what he or she wants, what you want for them to have a good life. And what's most important all the time is development and visibility, development and visibility. And the great thing is that if you aren't getting what you want on this team, let's say you're not getting many minutes. Let's say you're not getting power play, not getting penalty kill. Maybe you're promised you're going to be second goalie and it really feels like you're almost third the way the proportions go. No matter what that is, you have an opportunity every single game in the minutes that you have to go be the most intense, dialed in, focused, driven, attacking representation of what you're capable of at that time. And if you are truly phenomenal, how can you be ignored? You can't be. Now, maybe you'll be ignored on your team. Some greasy thing happens, that happens. But the world will see you. Development and visibility is everything. The rest of it is noise.
Yeah, and many times, of course, as teenagers are growing up, I'll use a teenage player for an example. Everyone, there's oftentimes they don't have a realistic self-evaluation of where they fall in the food chain in terms of the caliber of play. Many are dreamers and hopers and wishers, like, oh, I should be on that top team and that top line, because I went to school with so and so and he's doing that and he's a great player, so I should be treated the same. But that's where putting your focus on what you can control really becomes a solution for the player. And oftentimes that coach, they're not going to be perfect communicators. You're not always going to find out why you didn't play on the power play or you didn't get that penalty kill chance, even though all week you were practicing it. The reality is you got to go out and prove it. And from the parent perspective, the suggestion that I can provide is I would suggest giving time and opportunity to play out. Coaches are, they're trying to have this delicate dance of, hey, I want to help the players get better, but also we have to win to a certain level or else I'm going to lose the trust in that team. I've, from my position of operating a Tier 1 hockey club, I've had to let coaches go at some point during the course of the year because they've kind of lost, the parents have lost faith in them. Players have lost faith in them, and as sad as that is, and this isn't their full-time job. They're just trying to do it to be a part of the game, maybe make a few bucks, but they have 9 to 5 jobs, and it's this sad reality of like the coaches are trying to balance all their other time commitments and still want to be involved in hockey and coach this team. The parents are looking for full-time coaching, but obviously that comes at a certain rate. Players are just looking to hopefully enjoy the game, make friends, and get better. Some are super serious. Others, as we've talked about, aren't in the same ballpark with the same mentality. So it's all these different situations and nuances all playing out. And that's why I thought it'd be interesting to bring up, because really, you mentioned at the end of the day, the serious driven players that show up with a purpose every day are going to find their way up regardless of where they play and who their coaches are. It's really the fact. And if you're a goalie that's on a team that gives up a ton of chances and a ton of shots against, it might not seem like this dream world scenario because your team maybe isn't finding often time to find wins, but that's sometimes the dream world scenario. That's your way to get better, is showcase your way in games.
Yeah, I mean, just think about this. Let's say you're on the worst team and you get your ass kicked 10-0. I mean, honestly, and those things happen. They happen in almost any metro across the country. You're losing 10-0. There's scouts they're watching because you happen to be playing the best team. Scouts are watching. They're there to see a couple kids on the best team. And all of a sudden they see this kid on the team that's losing. Third period, 2 minutes left. And the kid's battling in the corners. Like, look at that kid. Like, he stands out because everybody else has given up, right? Chances are even the guys who are winning 10-0, they've probably taken their foot off the gas because they pummeled you and the game's almost over. So the scout's sitting there and the scout sees this guy who's losing 10-0, battling in the corners, this guy crashing the net, this guy communicating on the ice, this guy back-checking on a turnover as if it's the most important thing in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. You see that? It's outstanding. So here you are in this bucket of crap, right? I'm on this losing team. It's not good. I'm not getting ice time. But if you're amazing, you're going to be seen. But let's go to this other side, because I just know the people listening are going, okay, you guys are glossing this over and saying that, coaches have it hard. We should all be understanding. Well, yeah, we should. But parents have it hard. And it'd be nice if the system was understanding of that too. Kids have it hard. It'd be nice if we were understanding of that too. So let's get to the reality of this. Sometimes things are bad and they could be better, and somebody's not changing it. And sometimes there are buddy deals, and sometimes there are money deals, and sometimes things are just unfair. When you're in that situation, Jeff was just talking about, just give it a little bit of time. Just give it a little room to breathe. Just see if something can go. Have your kid be more and more grown up and go to the coach, say, Coach, if you can you please let me know anything I'm doing that I need to get better, because I want to get better and I want to be more of a driving force in this team. Have your kid do that. That's step one. If your kid gets a blow-off answer, maybe that's evidence that something's wrong. Give it a little bit of time. And if that doesn't work, and you see things that truly are so cancerous that your kid is getting completely passed over for real, you're objective about it. You're no longer emotional. It's not the day one of being disappointed because he didn't have power play or she didn't have power play. If you start to see something, there are situations that are just wrong. And sometimes you have to leave. But the majority of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, you've got coaches who are trying to make something work. They're working in the constraints of trying to win because frankly, most people come to the team because they win anyway. You want them to be that. And they're trying to balance that against this super subjective, super fast game, trying to figure out who can do this, who can I trust, how can I make this work? And it's just hard. 20 kids, one decision maker. You're the parent. Please try to pull the emotion out. Please try to step back a little. The best decisions are made without emotions.
And sometimes what you described there, sometimes the best intentioned coaches are the ones that families, they might not win enough because they're not making these greasy deals to recruit all these players, or, they don't sell their soul to get the top player over to their team because they just want to show up, coach, be involved in the game and be a good influence within the game. But sometimes those are the ones that where parents, are calling for their head after a certain period of time because they're not that top 10 team. So it was one of those avenues that I thought was just so unique in that it's like, how can you not like this guy? He's great. He's giving you video clips. He's sending messages to the team. He's taking the time to field calls. He's doing all those things. Yeah, but we're not winning, So that was for me, and this is a consistent deal. We're in Metro Detroit, but you mentioned it can be in Chicago, Boston, Pittsburgh area, LA, all these hockey hotbeds, even down in Florida. There's only so many highly competitive teams that players and parents might be attracted to play for, and sometimes that's how competitiveness is gained in the youth market. And so one thing you mentioned though previously is you talked about being the best even when you're not on the best team. And that's exactly how Connor Hellebuck was recruited. Connor Hellebuck was playing for a high school team in Michigan. They were playing against the top ranked high school team in our state. And the person who found him is a good friend of mine. He was there scouting some of the top players on Catholic Central, kind of the top ranked high school hockey team in Michigan. They win state championship, it seems like virtually every year. And Connor Hellebuck stood on his head in some regional final. And then he kind of got his eyes, oh man, who's that? Wow, he seemed to turn his head. And the next thing you know, that led into an opportunity. And then he took this opportunity that he was given and then put it into get an opportunity to juniors and then became a Vezina winning trophy in the NHL eventually, right? So that's exactly how things can transpire if you're living in the moment.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think in developing your kid to go up through the ranks, junior hockey is probably the most business-oriented thing you'll see coming out of youth hockey. Junior hockey, I've known kids who were drafted at 15, went to the USHL camp, didn't make the team, got slid sideways to a null affiliate, slid sideways to another null, slid sideways to another null. We're talking about 3 different billet families, 4 different team attempts. And this was a kid who was drafted, and I've seen people who weren't drafted who are all over the place. They're in Canada. They're over here. They're going to the null, NCDC. Like, it's really, really hard. And it's really hard because the truth is, these are human beings trying to make a living, trying to make a business that's successful, and trying to do it in the very subjective sport of hockey. In running, it's easy. It's so easy. When you run, the guy who comes across first is the best guy. The guy who comes second is the second. There's no greasy stuff. But here, the subjectivity of this and the desirability of this make it hard for even the best intentioned guys to make good decisions. And it's even harder because of the fact that sometimes people are treated like trading cards in this business. I can tell you, there are guys who have played for 15 years in the NHL, and all of a sudden they're slid sideways. It happens. It's part of helping your kid see the very adult parts of the sport and really the very adult parts of life. It's hard, but it's the truth. So stand up for the things that are true injustices. Do it with a sense of calm. Talk to the coach when you think there's something significant, but try to lead with the kid. Have your kid start a communication chain to help him or her develop. And if things aren't working, have a calm, rational communication with the coach. And if things are wrong, sometimes it's wrong, you got to leave. But in most cases, it's just human beings trying to make it work, and it's complicated.
You hear it all the time that hockey teaches you skills for life, and so as an athlete, as a player, you're going to go through the ups and downs. You're going to have this adversity. So that's where you're referencing there is adversity is going to come. You can't go crying to the coach immediately after you didn't play a shift or you sat down, you got sat and he didn't tell you why, or he didn't tell her why. When many of this occurs off both both avenues, but you're not always going to get an explanation. Sometimes it's go figure it out. What did you work on in practice? What play did you make or not make? Right? A lot of times it's find that figure it out button and go and perform better. Because the more you play and help your teammates, the better you play, the more the coach is going to play you. Right? You have to figure out what that coach has been, what he values. Does he value hard workers? Does he value goal scoring? Does he value awesome penalty killers who block shots? You have to listen and practice regardless of your sport or position. Find what that coach values, and that's where you go to execute to earn more playing time. So a lot of times it's figuring it out on your own. Of course, there's going to be some times when you might be kind of blowing off steam with your parents and you're on the car ride home and you're talking about the game and they're trying to figure out, well, how come you didn't play this shift? How come you got sat for a few minutes in the second? Right? And you can't always be like, I don't know, I'm getting screwed. I don't know, he just doesn't like me. Right? You got to at times work through those situations, learn how to be your best cheerleader for yourself, go and change it. And then eventually over time, as you mentioned, then it could be time to just ask the question, what can I do to improve or get better or earn more playing time? And then go and attack it.
Yeah. So I guess just as a summary, we know this is hard. It's hard. It's emotional. As a parent, you love your kid. You want things to work out. You got that mama bear or papa bear in you, which we all get. And your kid's trying to figure it out. And they're developing with a brain that keeps developing all the way to 25. So they assess danger and risk differently. Some people are more quiet. Some people are more loud. You get coaches who are well-intentioned, coaches who are poorly intentioned, and everywhere in between, just like all of life. We're playing on this ice where you've got metal blades that can cut you. You've got people jamming your head into the glass. You've got it happening at such high speed. And really, the game only stops a couple times in an hour. It's brutal, and it's a business. So making peace with all this, pulling away the emotions. Feel your emotions, man. Be mad. Tell the people around you, can't believe this. Get it off your chest. Let your kid get mad. Vent that out. And once you get past that, then get back to level and decide, okay, well, look, I was just mad. But what are we really looking at here? And I think sometimes just having the perspective to get to calm, just like you said, looking at it rationally, and then deciding what can I do now? What is actually doable now? Whether it's a communication from your kid first to the coach, or in the extreme communication from you, or in the ultimate extreme having to walk away, or making peace with all of it, realizing it's everybody trying to make it work. And what can I do now to help my career? And that really is back to this dialed and driven thing. Dialed for what you want, driven for what you want, and even in the worst situations, figure it out and be outstanding, and eyes will see you, and the opportunities have the best chance of coming up.
And last advice for athletes is if you don't like how your season has started, then go and change it. Right? Hit that figure it out button. You might not have had a perfect start with your team or your line mates or too many goals against. Like, go and evaluate your personal game, take a deep dive and go and figure it out. Work harder, be smarter, be a better teammate. Everyone loves a good teammate. Go be the best teammate you can possibly be and control the things you can control. And that's just one reminder, athletes, reminder to stay dialed and stay driven on your goals, as that's the only way to accomplish success. We look forward to chatting again next week.